Hey guys, I got Roll for the Galaxy. Just finished foam coring it pretty recently, and I'm really excited to show it off today. So this is Roll for the Galaxy. Is a dice collecting worker placement type game. There is a card version that plays this game, but this one is dice. I like the dice because it adds a different component to the game. I don't actually have any dice game to this day, so really excited about this one. But want to show off my foam core. If you're familiar with my other videos, I don't really make any plans for my games. I don't design it ahead of time. I just kind of go for it. I get a general layout and feel for what I want and start building. So I don't have any dimensions written down anywhere. But what I will do is measure as we go and give you just kind of rough estimates. And you're welcome to copy it and let me know what you think. So let's dive right in. You'll notice here everything sits really nicely. We've got the instructions there and kind of things hiding beneath, so I'll pull off the instructions. And then if you're familiar with the game, you'll know that there's these divider walls, and they sit right here flat against the cup wall. Alright, so here we go. Here's the box. You'll notice everything sits pretty nicely in there, pretty clean. It is flush with the top. A few millimeters down just allows for the instructions and the divider walls to sit in there, but everything is pretty even. You'll notice that internal dice box is just a hair lower than the cups. That allows, that was kind of accidental, but allows the divider walls to sit really nice and snug against that wall and not move. So here we go. The first thing we've got is, when you open it up, is the dice sitting really nicely here. So I'm going to pull those out, and we'll cover that in just a second. Right below that, I got another one, and we'll pull that out. That is for the victory points, and we'll go over that again as well. All right, let's do the cups on the side. Nice cup wall here. Can't get them out with those there. All right, and that measures. Just so you know, the box is 64 millimeters. The height of my foam core rather is 64 millimeters. The dimension of this roughly 67 by roughly 192. The cups fit in there really nicely and snug. You'll notice I got the design of the bottom. If you're familiar with the game, the insert that the game comes with has this really cool cardboard graphic. Unfortunately, it's built terribly for the game, so the pieces can bend or kind of warp over time, so that's why I wanted to focus on this game. But I did want to bring some life to the box and just kind of bring some of it back, the artwork here. So that's that. On the right here we have the dividers for the worlds and construction areas, as well as the starter cards. So it's roughly the same length here as this one, approximately 191, 192, and then again, the width of the cards, about 65 or so millimeters wide. They do all fit in there pretty snug, but you can pull them out pretty easily. So you can see I can slide them in and out. At the bottom here, we've got our starting tiles. We've got our little kind of informational sheet, as well as the dice placement board, and our meeples sit down in the corner. We'll talk about that. It's kind of tricky, this one. I got lucky, as well as had some fun building it. But I'll go ahead and pull these out. And the starting tiles as well. I'll probably just leave the meeples in there. Alright, so here we go. What you can see here is this is actually elevated. It's elevated the height of 7 pieces of foam core. And the reason I know that number is because what I did is actually took my scraps here. So I have a whole bowl of scrap foam core. Alright, and I took 7 of those scraps, cut them into little squares, stacked 7 high, and then what I did is I put it in each corner and 2 in the frame, right in the middle there. And then I glued this essentially 8th piece of foam core right on top, and that is cut to size underneath. Alright, so that is the whole dimension of the box down here, which is 280 millimeters by 87, 88, whatever is remaining, of course. And I do that, I keep all my scraps purposely for things like that. I often will elevate something off the bottom if I have too much space in the box for the parts that I need. I like to elevate it. It brings everything up to the top and it looks really presentable when you open the box. All right, so then what I did is I made a cutout here for the dice placement. And that is just a few millimeters off the wall. And then the shape and size of the cut is approximately 111, 115 or so by 41 or 42. And then this one, of course, is the same size as those starting tiles. If you look really closely here, you can actually see I've got some glue lines. When I made this, I actually made it for these things to stick in and have a finger hole, and then these to stick in and have a finger hole. I unfortunately made it a little tight, so I wasn't able to put these in and get them out with that wall there. So I actually had to cut the wall out, unfortunately. But again, that's part of the not making of plans. I just kind of go for it. And then you'll notice that to get everything to work here, this is also elevated, and it's got two scraps. Just I mentioned scraps before. It's got two scraps of foam core underneath it, and then a third one on top is a full width, fits inside really nicely there. I used the remainder of the space down here for the meeples, and then I put a little wall underneath there so that they can fit nice and snug in there. So that's the box. I'll set that aside and we'll go over the two inserts here. We've got the insert for the victory points. I've got them divided 1, 5, and 10. A lot of times in my games, I enjoy making individual slots for the amount of players so that when you sit down with a 2-player game, which requires 24 victory points, you can just use the first 2 slots. If you sit down to a 5-player game, you use all the slots. Didn't work out in this game. I probably could have with this, but I just didn't. This is all made of scrap foam core that I had sitting around. So actually, if you look here, you can see the foam core has these 2 slits in it there, and then little ones here just kind of fit in. They're laying down flat, and it's actually 2 pieces of foam core stacked. And then because of my scrap, I had to be creative and made a little bit of design bevel there. This one sits in the bottom, so it's the distance of here, the dimensions of here, but roughly 190 or so by 145, 146. Again, 2 pieces of foam core stacked. You could put a third one on there or make walls for it. And my dice holder here is a little tall, so you could do that and get some space back if you want to. But here's the dice. You'll notice here it's got individual slots kind of for each one. I ended up putting sweeps in here. If you're not familiar with what sweeps are, I got another video on that, but they're just a piece of construction paper that ends up kind of rolling up. And that way it gives you the ability to kind of pull the dice out of there at a curved way. So you can kind of grab them here and you can see, let's see if you can see it. So it kind of curves up. It just gives the ability to pull dice out real easily without having to reach your fingers in. All right, so this one, again, same dimensions as the other one, about 190, 145, 147, and the height of this one is 48 or so. In theory, give or take, these 2 boxes together here should be 60, yeah. So the height of my foam core insert is about 63, 64. These are 61 together. And again, you could take some height off the dice box and give it to your victory points if you want to. That was something I could have done, but I didn't. So that's essentially my box. What I'm going to do is take everything out here and kind of lay it out like a game so you can see that, and then I'm going to put it all back in so you can see kind of how fast cleanup is, and then again how nice it looks. So here we go. And I keep these separate, so you will have to grab these and bag them up. But here you go. These stay here, just kind of side of the table, so people can play those. Game's over. We had a good time. I won, of course. So you can stack these up. And sometimes it's a little finicky, but they slide in pretty nicely. I always like to turn the final ones so that they face the bottom. That's preference. These guys, the starting tiles and the middle tiles there, tell you the phase we're on. Alright. These starting tiles here kind of just slide right in. Alright. And actually the top one does kind of snap in there, so someday we'll see if I end up breaking that. These guys here, I like to push them this way. Toss the meeples in there. The area for the meeples is a little small, but it works pretty well. These guys sit right on top really nicely. Fit in there. Again, I like to face mine just so every time I play it's good to go. I put the victory points at the bottom because they're really thin and I like the heavy dice to sit right on top. And then the divider walls, the bottom flat side, I just usually put right up against there. Everything sits nicely. The instruction manual and the box. Awesome. And I usually store mine vertically like this in my closet. And the reason I do that, I mean, it's obvious. They stack nicely. You can see them all and you can still kind of pull them out. But because I do that, I have to make sure that I make the foam core inserts flush with the top of the box so that nothing falls out. So I usually kind of give them the little shake test. Every once in a while something gets out of place, a victory point or something might. But let's see real quick how we did. Alright, so one tile here out of place. That's because there's a height difference there. And then we'll check the victory points. Yep, victory points went for a little ride. You can see they're at the bottom. So you could fix that by raising the bottom up just a little bit, but again, it's not a huge deal. It just takes a second here to divide. Alright, and we're all back set, ready to go. So let me know if you have any questions, comments. I can answer the best I can, and let me know if you make the box. I'd love to see what you got and see your thoughts.